You know, Steve Austin is a great superhero because he's a real person. He doesn't have these external superpowers from another planet. He just works really hard and he works out and he wants to accomplish what he wants to accomplish, and he can do all that just as a human being, which is really impressive because he's just a person, but he's a superhero, and you can still be a superhero even if you're just a regular human being.
Wow.
I remember being on the bus in elementary school, so 3rd to 5th grade. And I remember when it first came out, it was the coolest thing on TV, bar none.
I am 46 years old, and it was myself and my friends who were on the playgrounds from 4th to 6th and 8th grade, running around in slow motion and making the bionic sounds.
And we would go out in the backyard, sometimes with the action figures, doing the adventures at scale, or sometimes at full scale using ourselves.
And sure, whenever we went to the action scenes, we would actually slow down.
It's wild, Steve. It's wild.
I really wasn't aware of the fan base that was, of today. I hadn't heard it. I sure mentioned it to a lot of people. They said, "What did you do?" I said, "I did the $6 Million Man." They go, "Wow!" But they're in my age. I wasn't aware of that. The younger kids had caught on to it, but I'm sure aware of it now.
Whenever Steve burst into slow motion and that music kicked in, to me it was like, buckle your seatbelts, we're blasting off.
Once you plant that icon, of a character in a show that has such effect on, as I was driving over here, I was on the phone with someone, I was mentioning what I was doing, and this guy's, I think, John's a very good friend of mine. He works with me in the aerial business. He's 40. I told him what I was doing. He says, "Oh my God, that was my favorite show." Do you know that when I would imagine myself as a bionic man, I had 2 bionic arms? And, I had no idea that his fan base, there was that kind of fan base out there. But it just stays and stays and stays.
I could be the $6 Million Man.
Center of it all, he is still a man.
I could lose my legs, my arm, my eye, and get bionic replacements.
He's still a soul. He can still feel pain, heartbreak, anguish, joy.
I'm kind of attached to my current set of limbs.
Our hero, with his accoutrements, goes on a quest to stop an evil dictator at all costs, using his skills.
My fan experience has been rather entirely because of my later association with Star Trek. But sometimes it goes over the edge, uniforms and such. Fortunately, in 6 Mil, I've never experienced the kind of radicalism that you get in a Star Trek convention.
Let's start from the beginning, Sheriff. This is Colonel Steve Austin, and my name is Oscar Goldman.
Richard Anderson was perfect for Steve's boss, Oscar Goldman.
You mean the government handler?
Yes, of course, I had the Oscar Goldman. In fact, I still remember everybody's name.
Yes, I remember him very well.
He had a gravitas to him.
He was too stiff.
He had this incredible gravelly voice.
Well, don't you think I'm a big boy, Oscar? Isn't that my decision to make?
Then why not just start acting like one?
I'm sorry, he was very stiff.
When something important happened, he made sure you knew it.
Well, at least he's alive, or was. Through my experience with, meeting people, one fellow came up to me and he says, "Gosh, I grew up on you." I said, "Yeah, I hear that a lot." And you know what that means? It means those memories you always remember, when life was different and supposedly better, as you do today. And he says, I'm going to watch that show, and I'm going to have my son watch it. The power of television is incredible. We don't know here, really, what movies, how strong movies are, how much it affects our lives.
I was a dyed-in-the-wool fan from the very beginning, from the first TV movie on. Somewhere during the first season, I parted my hair on the side, and it stayed that way until it fell out. I loved the show. Steve was a hero in the way that many other shows that I was a fan of didn't have a hero that was like Steve. Steve was it.
You know how they're always looking for a new angle, new device? I mean, think of what an asset Jamie could be to us. And her cover as a tennis pro, I mean, it's perfect. I mean, there are places that she could get into that I could never get into. And she's got the head for it. She's well-adjusted, she's clever.
Steve, you're in love with her.
What's that got to do with it?
Everything.
When I was working on the 3 movies, What Are You Doing, $6 Million Man, Bionic Woman, I can't think of anyone who didn't say, oh, I love that show. I mean, those 2 shows were part of a kind of cult following that you don't have so much anymore today, where fans, just, remembered the characters and remembered the show with fondness. And, when I was growing up and, I used to watch it with my dad or my mom and there were some, there aren't many shows like that. But I think $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman are 2 shows that do have a kind of popular life long after they finished.
I always think about how is this going to affect who's watching it, whether it's a child or an adult. Well, maybe people feel that I do care. I don't know. They've said similar things to me, and I think, wow, they got it. That's cool.
The first bionic man and woman, now soon to become man and wife.
Better looking?
Well, when you're a kid, you're going to say Steve Austin was, the bomb, but, when you're trying to get in with the ladies, like, oh, I love Jamie,
Definitely Lindsay Wagner as Jamie Summers.
Help! No, help! Oh. Are you all right?
Well, I was just coming up to see if you were all right.
It does surprise me that there's still this amazing fan base. I don't know. Is it like other shows do other shows from the 70s have this kind of following? I honestly don't know, but it's just really amazing to see these people and how dedicated they are and how dedicated they have been for such a long time. I know with Lindsay's fan group, fan club, that Lindsay's a big part of it. That's the kind of person she is, again, that's how caring she is and cares about the people in her fan club. I think a lot of little girls, well, now women, who are named Jamie and Lindsay are named Jamie and Lindsay because of that show.
We talk about the impact that the show had and that the character had on kids when they were growing up, but I see it still. When I meet people today, their face completely transforms, and they're anywhere from 4 to 12 years old. And they talk and they stammer, and it's just like they were when they were a kid.
Well, it wasn't exactly quiet and delicate, but we did it.
Yeah, you were fantastic.
Oh, except for knocking that vase over. I'm gonna have to stop breaking things at the wrong moment.
Well, that's enough shop talk. We got a wedding to plan, remember?
I've had women just start to cry when they're talking to me because they want to express how much that meant to them, how empowering that was to them at an age and in a point in history where we were just beginning that shift.
Oh, what's happening to me?
You sure you're all right?
I don't know.
It was the first couple on television, that we could identify with. And then at the end of the Bionic Woman episode, she dies. And I can remember crying, because there was such an emotional attachment to those characters.
Probably nowhere is that more evident than in The Return of the Bionic Woman, when he gets Jamie back only to lose her. And he absolutely rises to the challenge. As his stepfather says, I've never been more proud of you than I am right now. He takes it on the chin and does what's best for Jamie.
I can't believe
Steve, she's very unstable. She was in a coma for a long time.
Rudy and Michael almost lost her on 5 separate occasions.
We didn't know what kind of brain damage might have occurred. She could have been a vegetable when she woke up.
You never think you're going to have any interest with an audience that would shape their lives. And then suddenly you get these letters that indicate that somehow you did shape somebody's lives.
Well, that's not good enough, Rudy.
Oscar, this could be the most efficient teaching tool ever dreamed of. Anyone could learn whatever he wanted, just to fly a jet, to speak in Chinese, in a matter of hours.
And most of the time it was thank you for, doing what you did. Most of the time it was a normal fan letter, that kind of thing.
Between each of these men is a human glue that holds the OSI together.
In short, the secretaries of the most important men are on this chart. Under phase 1 of my plan, certain of these strategically located ladies will be replaced by my fembots.
I did one convention last year, and everybody came up to me and remembered me.
Helicopter landing in southern quadrant.
They all want to know about the faceplate.
These ridiculous mannequins aren't going to fool anybody.
Baron?
They're really remarkable.
Some of them will ask about the stunt work, about the slow motion. Actually, a lot of them think that I did the stunts that Stephanie did, with the faceplate on, especially in The Bionic Woman. And I always tell them, no, that wasn't me.
My response to the fans that have conventions and so forth, I think it's marvelous, and I think it's a great support mechanism. But I gotta tell you, that's a little kooky.
I always wondered why he only had one bionic arm.
It did not mean the worth of a man. A man is more than the sum of his parts.
Why not have two? Be balanced.
You could take his arm off, you could take his legs off.
And then 2 bionic eyes and the whole bit.
Center of it all. He is still a man. He's still a soul. He can still feel pain, heartbreak, anguish, joy. It doesn't diminish him any more than any other person.
It was one of the first superheroes of our generation that was ours. He was half man, half technology. He was of the future. And so we could relate to him.